We're in Tamid, Perek Gimel, because, as we mentioned, Maseches Tamid goes in order of the Seder Hayom of the Avod in the Beis Hamikdash. It's important just to refresh our recollections, given the Shabbos in between, to know where we're up to. So we already learned about the first payis, the first lottery that occurred in the Beis Hamoked, and that occurred before dawn. And the lottery winner did Trumas Hadeshen, and besides the Trumas Hadeshen, he also set up the Maracha, the logs of wood for the Korbanos. He also set up the logs of wood for the Maracha of Ketores. And after dawn, he did the mitzvah of Shnei Gizrei Eitzim. He would put the two additional logs on the Maracha Gedolah. And with that, we ended the first payis, the first lottery. We also learned that when the Kohen who did the Trumas Hadeshen, when he left the Beis Hamoked to do Trumas Hadeshen, two groups of Kohanim left with him. One went to the right, one went to the left, one went east, one went west, and they were bolesh. They checked the Azorah to make sure that all the kalim were in their appropriate place. So if we go to our Midos diagram 3, we learned that the Kohanim left the Beis Hamoked, and they would go all around. Some of them went this direction, some of them went this direction, and they checked to make sure all the kalim were in their proper place. The reason I'm emphasizing that now is because there's a Mishnah we're going to learn today that also deals with the kalim, the vessels. So they went this direction, a second group went this direction, and they met at the room. There were two rooms around Shar Nicanor. To the right was Pinchas Hamalbish, where they kept the begodim of the Kohanim, and one was Osei Chavitin, where they made the Chavitin. And it's written on your diagram. The Chavitim were the 12 chalos that a Kohen Gadol had to bring every day, 6 in the morning, 6 in the afternoon. They were brought as a korban mincha. That's where the chalos were baked. We then went to Perek Beis, and in Perek Beis we learned Amalahem Hamamuna. We went to the second payis, the second lottery. Altogether, there are 4 lotteries each day in the morning. That was the first lottery for Trumas Hadeshen. The second lottery, Amalahem Hamamuna, the first mission in Perek Gimel, and this lottery resulted in 13 separate winners. The first lottery for Trumas Hadeshen resulted in one winner, the Kohen who would do Trumas Hadeshen that day. The second lottery resulted in 13 separate winners. And again, they did the same thing. They counted the fingers. Whoever was the winner, he was the shochet. The person to his right would sprinkle the blood. And then we went through Perek Gimel Mishnah Aleph, the 13 different jobs that were given out. They went to the right of each Kohen. The winner would be the shochet of the korban tamid shel shachar. And as we mentioned, there was only one set of payis. There was only one set of lotteries, and that was done in the morning. Whoever won the morning lottery won the same job for the afternoon. So whoever was shochet the korban tamid shel shachar, he was shochet the korban tamid of the afternoon. Whoever won the lottery to sprinkle the blood of the tamid in the morning, he was the same person who would sprinkle the blood of the korban tamid shel bein habayim. So there were 13 winners for the second payis. Perek Gimel Mishnah Beis told us that a Kohen went to a high place in the Beis Hamikdash and checked to see if the sun, where the sun was, how much light there was in the sky. And there was a machlokes what the person who was at this high point in the Beis Hamikdash would say. The first shita was he would yell out or say Barkai. He would tell the Kohen who was at the lower level, at the floor of the courtyard of the Beis Hamikdash, he would say Barkai, it's shining. And that would be pretty early, that would be way before dawn. It would be, I'm sorry, yeah, it would be right at dawn, right at Amud HaShachar. And we don't paskin like that. We paskin according to the second shita, that the Kohen that was in this high place would say, Heir Pnei Kol HaMizrach, the whole eastern part of the sky is lit up. And the person below would say, Ad Shehu B'Chevron, do you think there is enough light shining in Chevron? And the person at the top would say, Hen, yes. And the purpose of that question and answer was to say the word Chevron before you start the avoda in the morning, so that we would have the schus of Avraham, Yitzchak, Yaakov, Sarah, Rivka, Leah. Of course, Rachel is in Beit Lechem. She's doing her own tefillas. And this way we would have the schus avos and imoris with us to open the day of the avoda. So the word Chevron was said. And that's where we're up to right now. We're up to Perek Gimel, Mishnah Beis. And we're starting the flow of the avoda. The Trumas Hadeshin has been done through the first lottery. The corners of the Mizbeach have been cleaned from yesterday's karbonos and yesterday's ketores. New logs have been set up there. The fire has been ignited on the two ma'arachos. Go back to our midos number 3. Remember the 3 ma'arachos on the Mizbeach, the big ma'aracha for the animals, the small ma'aracha for ketores. The ma'aracha, third ma'aracha, was just for the purpose of making sure there was a 24/7 fire on the Mizbeach. And in the middle, the tapuach, the collection of ash. So we have new logs for the karbonos of today, new logs for the ketores of today. And now the Kohen has lit the 2 marachos. The sun gives us enough light to begin the avoda. And now the Kohen is going to put on top of the maracha gedola the 2 extra pieces of wood. The second payas has occurred. The second lottery has occurred. And we know who's going to be in charge of this carbon. There are 13 Kohanim, and each of them knows what they need to do. So now, Amalahem Mishnah Gimel, Amalahem, the Mamuna said to them, the Mamuna of the pious, 15 supervisors in the Beis Hamikdash, one of the supervisors was the supervisor over the lottery. Amalahem, and he says to them, again, Perek Gimel, Mishnah Gimel, and if you're using your V'hashev Esvavoda, it's on page 15. Amalahem, Tzu V'haviu Toleh Milishkas Hatloyim. The supervisor of the lottery said to the Kohanim, the ones that are going to be dealing with the carbon Tamid, the shochet, the person who's going, the Kohen that's going to shech the carbon, the person that's going to sprinkle the blood, go and get a tle, go and get a sheep from the sheep room. We're going to come back to this in a moment. We learned about this in Maseches Tamid. We're going to go to our diagram 3 in a moment. The Lishkas Hatloyim, the room where they kept the sheep, was in the north-south corner. Let's go back to our Midos diagram 3. We learned about the Beis Hamoked. Now, Beis Hamoked is where the Kohanim slept. They came last night. They would sleep in there. The Kohanim of this Mishmar, they haven't been here for 24 weeks, and they show up last night. Last night's not a good example because it's Shabbos, Mitzvah Shabbos, let's make believe last night was Sunday. They showed up Sunday night because today, meaning Monday, hypothetically, they would start the avoda today. 24 mishmaros, they showed up. Each mishmar is broken into 6 days. And today is Sunday for Mishmar Reuven. The Kohanim slept in here in the Beis Hamoked. They woke up. We went through the process of the payas. The Beis Hamoked is built half. Beis Hamoked is on the northern wall of the Azorah. The northern part of the Beis Hamoked is over the Chayil, which means it does not have the Kedusha of the Azorah. Again, the Chayil, you have this outside thin black wall, that's the Soreg. That's the wall that was put up as a line of demarcation that Gentiles could not go any further than this wall. The thick black wall is the wall of the Azorah. Between the thin wall, the Soreg, and the wall of the Azorah is the Chayil. And that Chayil has its own rules about who can go there. That Chayil is 10 amos wide, so you figure it's about, 22, 24 feet. So part of the Beis Hamoked is over the Chayil. And therefore you can sit in that part that's over the Chayil. Because the Chayil, in terms of biblical halacha, is part of Har Habayis. This wide whole outer area is Har Habayis. And the Chayil is really Har Habayis, although rabbinically it was given certain additional Kedusha. But you can sit in the part of the Beis Hamoked that's over the Chayil. The part of the Beis Hamoked that's more south, which is inside the Azorah, you can't sit there because you have to be a sign of the Davidic dynasty to sit in the Azorah. So part of the Beis Hamoked, the northern part of the Beis Hamoked, you can sit. The southern part of the Beis Hamoked, you cannot. Now here the Mishnah tells us something very interesting, which directly contradicts something that we learned in Maseches Midos. The Mishnah says, Lishkas Hataloyim, the room that they kept these sheep for the korban Tamid, Hoisa b'mikzoa tzfonis ma'aravis. It was in the northwest corner of the Lishkas Beis Hamoked. If we go to our diagram 3, you can see there are four chambers in the Beis Hamoked in each corner. 2 of these corners are in the Azorah. You can't sit there. 2 of the corners are over the Chayil. You can sit there. The picture that we have from Maseches Midos, which is based on Maseches Midos, shows that the Lishkas Hatloyim, it says Taloyim in the picture, it shows Taloyim is southwest. The Mishnah that we're reading now says Lishkas Hatloyim Hoisa b'mikzoya tzfonis ma'aravis. It was northwest. So where was it? Northwest or southwest? And this is a stira for that the Gemara talks about exactly where the Lishkas Hatloyim was, and the Gemara works it out. It was partially southwest, partially northwest, and that's a Gemara. We're not going to go into the Gemara. I just note for those who still are working through Maseches Midos and reviewing it, that yes, there is a contradiction between Midos and Tamid. The Mishnah that we're reading right now says that the Lishkas Hatloyim, Hoisa b'mikzoya tzfonis ma'aravis, the Lishkas Hatloyim was northwest, which would make it here, where our picture says Chosamot, according to the Mishnah in Tamid, is Tlaim. But we see that the picture of Maseches Midos shows Tlaim southwest. Be that as it may, the Gemara works it out. So the Mishnah says that the supervisor of the paya said, Haviu tolemi lishkas hatloyim. Bring a sheep for the korban tamid shel shachar from the Lishkas Hatloyim, And the mamuna, the supervisor, would actually tell them where it was. Remember, Kohanim didn't do the avoda for 24 weeks. They haven't been there for 24 weeks. And when they do the avoda, unless there's tremendous overflow avoda, they only get 1 day every 24 weeks. So the mamuna would give them directions. He would say to the people who won lottery number 2, who are responsible for the korban tamid, he would say to them, go get a tle from the Lishkas Hatloyim, and the Lishkas Hatloyim is northwest in the Beis Hamokeh. Now, how many Tloyim did they keep in the Beis Hamokeh? This is a topic that's discussed in Masechta Erechin, Mishnayos Erechin, Perek Hey, Perek Beis, Mishnah Hey. The minimum amount of Tloyim that were kept in the Lishkas Hatloyim, diagram 3, your Lishkas Hatloyim, was 6. You always had to have 6 in the Lishkas Hatloyim. And the Mishnah gives us a siman, although we learned it out of a pasuk, the Mishnah gives us a siman. We want to always have 6 available inspected. We're going to soon learn about inspected. These 6 animals had been inspected and are inspected to make sure they have no blemish or mum. If they have a blemish, obviously a blemish that's a halachic blemish, you can't use them as a korban. So these animals had to be checked by Talmidei Chachomim to know that there was no blemish. And they had to be checked at least 4 days. They were brought as a korban. We'll see that shortly. They needed to have 6 inspected sheep in the Lishkas Hatloyim. Why? So the Mishnah gives us an example. The Mishnah says, again, we learn it out of a pasuk, but the Mishnah gives us an example. If Rosh Hashanah is the only Yom Tif that can be 2 days, all the Yom Tovim biblically are only 1 day, and Rosh Hashanah is biblically only 1 day. The issue that comes from Rosh Hashanah is that Sukkot, for example, is the 15th day of Tishrei. Pesach is the 15th day of Nisan. Shavuos is the 6th day of Shavuos. Shavuos also has certain problems attributed to it because our months are based upon the lunar calendar, and the way things worked were that 2 witnesses had to come to Beis Din in Yerushalayim and testify that they saw the new moon. Okay, so the witnesses came. There's only really 2 days that the witnesses can show up. The new moon will be either without getting into Masechta Rosh Hashanah, a Jewish month is either going to be 29 days and the next day is Rosh Chodesh, or the Jewish month is going to be 30 days, with the 30th day being the first day Rosh Chodesh, and the next day being the first day of the new month, which would be the 2nd day Rosh Chodesh. Tishrei is very different. If you look at your calendar, you haven't noticed, Tishrei, Elul is always for us 29 days. The first day Rosh Hashanah is Aleph Tishrei. The 2nd day Rosh Hashanah is Beis Tishrei, which is very interesting because Beis Tishrei means it's not Rosh Hashanah. Rosh Hashanah is the first day of Tishrei. So Rosh Hashanah is not like 2 days Rosh Chodesh, where the 2 days Rosh Chodesh is the 30th day of Elul and the first day of Tishrei, because Elul is 29 days. Rosh Hashanah is the first day of Tishrei. That makes sense. The first day of Tishrei, B'chodesh Ashvi B'echad HaChodesh. The Torah says the 7th month, the first day. We keep the 2nd day of Tishrei as Rosh Hashanah as well, and that's because of the problem that would come up. Witnesses come to the base to Yerushalayim, and they testify that they saw the new moon. They come, let's say, in the afternoon of a day. It's between Elul and Tishrei. And the Beis Din accepts their testimony. The Beis Din says it's Rosh Chodesh Tishrei. As soon as Beis Din says it's Rosh Chodesh Tishrei, that day converts to Rosh Hashanah. And that means people got up in the morning and they went to work. They didn't know if today would be the 30th day of Elul or whether it would be the first day of Tishrei. They don't know because the witnesses didn't show up yet to the Beis Din. So they went to work, they put on their tefillin, they davened the whole davening. The karbonos that were brought in the Beis HaMikdash were the karbonos for a regular day. They didn't bring the karbonos of Rosh Hashanah. Nobody listened to Tekiyah Shofar. And in the afternoon, maybe 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock in the afternoon, the witnesses show up. Beis Din hears what they have to say. And Beis Din says, today was actually the first day of Tishrei because the new moon was seen last night. And we have all kinds of problems. The Mishnah and the Gemara explaining Rosh Hashanah. What do we do now at 4 o'clock in the afternoon? We're going to make it Yontif. People are at work. Nobody heard Shofar. Nobody davened Rosh Hashanah. We didn't bring the Karbanos of Rosh Hashanah. So different takonos were made over time to deal with Rosh Hashanah. Sukkot doesn't present that problem because Rosh Hashanah is Rosh Hashanah, and then 15 days later, it's going to be Sukkot. Pesach doesn't create that problem because whenever Beis Din says it's Rosh Chodesh Nisan, he's still going to have 14 or 15 days to get the message out. Rosh Hashanah is the same day as Rosh Chodesh. So as soon as Beis Din declares it's Rosh Chodesh, whoops, it already is Rosh Hashanah. So Rosh Hashanah presented different issues. Therefore, by the time the Chazal were finished dealing with all the takonos end up being that Rosh Hashanah is going to be kept for 2 days, even in Eretz Yisrael. So we always keep 1 day in Eretz Yisrael for every Yontif, because biblically a Yontif is only 1 day, including Rosh Hashanah. The Chutz La'aretz, for their own reasons, they keep 2 days. In Eretz Yisrael, Rosh Hashanah, the takana became to keep 2 days to address this problem of the Eidim that came late on the first day of Tishrei. And the takanas sort of blossomed until it became first day and second day of Tishrei, Rosh Hashanah. So hypothetically, and it happens here in Eretz Yisrael, Rosh Hashanah is Wednesday night, Thursday night, Friday, and you go right into a Shabbos. That's the one time in Eretz Yisrael you can have a 3-day Yom Tov. Can't have any other 3-day Yom Tov in Eretz Yisrael. So, dealing just with the carbon Tamid needs to be inspected 4 days before it's brought. Again, we'll see that later today. If it's going to be inspected 4 days before it's brought, if you have Thursday, Friday, Shabbos, 3 days where you can't go out and buy animals because it's Yom Tov, 2 days Rosh Hashanah and Shabbos. So you have 3 days in a row. Each day needs 2 karbonos. I'm not talking about the carbon musaf and the special karbonos. We're talking now just about the carbon tamid, the daily offering, morning, afternoon, had to be inspected for 4 days. We learned that out from a pasuk. So going into a 3-day Yom Tov, 2 days Rosh Hashanah and Shabbos, you're going to need 3 times 2. You're going to need 6 sheep for the carbon tamid. So therefore, this is just a sign to keep in mind. We know that they need to have 6 inspected sheep in the Lishkas HaTloyim, but the Mishnah there in Erech says, and if you want to remember it, remember Rosh Hashanah and Shabbos. Rosh Hashanah, Shabbos means I need 6 inspected animals. So they have these 6 inspected animals, and every time they took out 2 animals at the end of today, 2 animals had been removed, 1 for the morning, 1 for the afternoon. Which animals got removed? The 2 animals that had been inspected 4 days before today. They were brought out. Tonight they would bring in 2 more animals so that the Lishkas HaTloyim would again have 6 animals. Tomorrow they would take out 2 more. Which 2? The 2 that had been inspected 4 days before. And tomorrow night they would bring in 2 more. So they would have a round robin. They would always have in the Lishkas HaTloyim 6. Each day, 1 in the morning, 1 in the afternoon would be taken out. Those 2 that were taken out today had been inspected 4 days before today. They would put 2 more back in tonight. So the Lishkas HaTloyim had been replenished to 6. Tomorrow morning you're going to take out 1 in the morning, 1 in the afternoon. and replenish it tomorrow night, so there are 6. So that's the Lishkas Hatloyim. So they went, the next step is the Kohanim went to get one of these sheep. And obviously these things were kept records of, so they knew in the Lishkas Hatloyim which are 4 days past inspection and which are 3 days past inspection, which are 2 days past inspection. And for today, they can only use the ones that were 4 days post-inspection. And now the Mishnah just reminds us, since we're learning Tamid, it's always a good thing to review what you previously learned. Chazorah is an unbelievable thing. So now the Mishnah, once it tells us about one of the 4 chambers in the base Hamoked, the Mishnah tells us all the 4 chambers. Va'aba l'shakos hayusham. There were 4 chambers in the base Hamoked. Achas lishkas hatloyim. One is the lishkas hatloyim, where they kept the sheep for the korban tamid. Va'achas lishkas hachosamos. And one is the lishkas hachosamos, where they kept the insignias. If you go back to Midos number 3, it's showing you that in the northeast corner, there's chosamos. That's where they kept the insignias. What does insignias mean? There were 2 supervisors there, 2 more of our 15 supervisors. If someone wanted to bring a korban that required a mincha, which meant flour and oil mixed into it, and wine poured on the mizbeach, or there were some people that wanted to just bring a flour offering. So you have to have the flour, the oil, and not necessarily wine. But for the daily avod in the Beis HaMikdash, people bring in karbanos, so you need flour, oil, wine. For the korban tamid, morning and afternoon, you have to bring a mincha, so you need flour, oil, and you need wine to pour on the mizbeach. In order to make sure that the flour, the oil, the wine was tahor, it was ritually pure, so there was a chamber in the base Hamoked in which they stored flour, oil, and wine to use in the base Hamikdash. This way they knew where it came from. They knew it was kept ritually pure. A person that had to bring a korban and needed flour, oil, wine, he went into this chamber. Go back to diagram 3, the Lishkat HaChosamot in the base Hamoked. Well, how would a Yisrael get there? Simple. He comes to the northern side of the Harabayas. He's allowed to walk, assuming he's not Tomei Meis. He walks through the opening to get into the base Hamoked, the northern opening. He goes through the Chayil, and he's allowed to be in the northern part of the base Hamoked. The northern part of the base Hamoked is not part of the Azara. It has the din of Harabayas. So he goes into this northern room in the base Hamoked, Chosamot, and there he pays. There's a certain fee you pay, depending on how much wine you need, how much flour you need, and how much oil you need. How much do you need? The Torah Psukim tell us how much you need. In Parashat Shlach, the Torah gives us the exact measurements for each type of animal, each type of korban that's brought. The smaller the animal, the smaller amount of flour, oil, and wine. The larger the animal, the more flour, the more oil, the more wine. So you went into the Lishkas HaChotamot, you said, this is the korban that I'm bringing, and this is how much flour do I need, how much oil do I need, how much wine do I need, and you would get a petek. You would pay for it at one supervisor, and the name of that supervisor, the Mishnah tells us in Shkolim, was Yochanan. He was the supervisor over the insignias. He gave you the receipt. Pay for. It may say one of 4 words on it. The Mishnah tells us in Shkolim. It may say Egel. It may say Zachar, which means a ram. It may say Gedi, a goat. And it may say Metzora. Metzora needed a special amount of oil. Those are the 4 types of receipts. You paid. If you were bringing a ram, you got a receipt that said Zachar. You took that receipt to the next mamuna. That mamuna was called Achia, and he actually dispensed the correct amount of flour, oil, and wine. And now you had your flour, oil, and wine, and you were able to go bring it in for the Kohen to bring a korban. What we've been discussing till now is a private person who needs to bring a korban. He would go to Yochanan, pay, get a receipt, go to Achia, and get the wine, the oil, etc. And this way he'd be able to bring his korban. When we're dealing with the korban tamid in the morning or the korban tamid in the afternoon, we're dealing with korbanos tzibur. Individuals obviously don't have to pay for this. Every year, a half a shekel, a machzis a shekel was collected, and that paid for everything that dealt with the korban tzibur. And the oil, the flour, and the wine that had to be brought morning, afternoon, or on a Shabbos or Chodesh or Yom Tov, was paid for by the machzis a shekel. And in your Bahashev Es Havoda, they have a picture on page 83, picture 66, of a Kohen going into the Lishkas Hatloyim and taking out one sheep for the korban tamid. On page 89, they're showing you Kohanim who are in the Lishkas Hashmanim, which we haven't talked about yet. We talked about Amidas, and one is carrying oil, one's carrying flour, and one is carrying wine, and they're doing that for the korban tamid. Okay, so let's go back to our Mishnah. The Mishnah says that in the Beis Hamokeh, there was the Lishkas Hatloyim, 4 chambers. One was for the sheep, one was for the chosamot, for the insignias. The insignia was on each of the receipts. Va'achas Lishkas Beis Hamokeh. Go back to your diagram number 3, you'll see Beis Hamokeh, and that's the Beis Hatfil. In other words, there's something called the Beis Hamokeh, the large Beis Hamokeh. The large Beis Hamokeh is on the northern wall of the Azorah, and in the 4 corners, there are 4 separate rooms or 4 separate chambers. One of the 4 chambers in the Beis Hamokeh is called Lishkas Beis Hamokeh. That's the room where they had the fire in the middle so that the Kohanim who were cold, their feet were on the stone floor or the ceramic floor, and their feet were cold, and they were cold. So they went into this Lishkas Beis Hamokeh to warm up. Underneath the Lishkas Beis Hamokeh, there were steps in the Lishkas Beis Hamokeh. There was a mikveh under the Beis Hamokeh, which we learned about. That mikveh was used for 1 or 2 things. A Kohen who became Tameh went down to that mikveh. We learned about that process. Or the Kohen who wanted to do Trumas Hadeshin in the morning and be part of the first lottery, he would go down to that mikveh in Tovel. And there was a fire upstairs in the Lishkas Beis Hamokeh to warm up. Va'achas lishka shoy oisem balechem aponim. And the 4th room, again, diagram 3, you see that it says, Osei Lechem Haponim. So you have 2 rooms inside the Azorah. One was for the Tloim, for the sheep. One was to make the Lechem Haponim. And this Lechem Haponim was baked every Friday. The 2 other rooms, which were on the northern side, one was the Beis Hatfilah, that was the Beis Hamokeh where they had a fire to warm up, and one was the Chosamos where you got your receipt for having paid for the wine, oil, and flour. Mishnah Dalet. We'll begin Mishnah Dalet today. Next step, we have an animal that's being taken out of the Lishkas Hatloyim. So the animal's been inspected for 4 days, and this is going to be our korban tamid. Next, nichnasu lelishkas hakelim. A group of kohanim who are in that Beis Av for that day went into lishkas hakelim. We don't know where that was. The Mefarshim say, as we learned Maseches Midos doesn't describe to us a room a vessel room, the room that kept the vessels. We don't exactly know where this was, but there was a room that had vessels, and these are the vessels that they would need for the avoda the entire day. And they removed from that room 93 silver and gold vessels. Altogether, 93 vessels were needed for the avoda of that day. Where did they get the number 93? So the Yerushalmi in Masechta Chagiga at one point says that if you learn Sefer Chagai, Zechariah, and Malachi, those are the three last Nevi'im that lived in the history of the Jewish people, Malachi being the last one. After Malachi died, there have been no Nevi'im. Notwithstanding what anybody may believe about themselves, there are no Nevi'im. We look forward to the day of the reinstitution of Nevuah as told by us by Nevi'im, but we don't have Nevi'im. And the last three Nevi'im, Chagi, Zechariah, Malachi, according to this answer, Masechta Chagiga, if you read the three books, those are the three books of the Trei Asar. One of the books of the Nevi'im is called Trei Asar, the books of the 12. There are 12 short books by different Nevi'im. Three of them are Chagi, Zechariah, and Malachi. Malachi is the last book because he was the last Navi. If you go through the book of Chagai, Zechariah, Malachi, you will count God's name in those three books 93 times. That's what Yerushalmi and Chagiga says. Yerushalmi and Chagiga then says, but when I counted, I only see 83, and that leads to all kinds of debates. Where do you get the 93 from? This number 93 as being the number of God's name. How many times does God's name appear in the books Chagi, Zechariah, Malachi? The Rambam says the Rab go along with the Yerushalmi in Chagiga. It's 93 times. There's a question how to calculate it. And because of those 93 times, since they were the last three Nevi'im, and they were the Nevi'im who were alive at the very beginning of the second Beis HaMikdash, so in honor of Chagi, Zechariah, Malachi, the Kalim, they used 93 Kalim in the Beis HaMikdash, second Beis HaMikdash, every day for the avoda morning and afternoon. So they took out these kalim now, and where did they put these kalim? They put these kalim on two tables, which are in your diagram number 3, which I'll show you in a moment. But for some reason, this is another thing that doesn't appear in Masechta Midos. Masechta Midos does not describe where does not even discuss these two special tables. But we're told, if you look in diagram number 3, at the Mizbeach, the outside Mizbeach, to the west of the left, to the west of the Mizbeach, it's showing you two tables. These two tables are not mentioned in Masechta Midos. They're in your diagram because we have a Kabbalah from Chazal that there were two tables there. Western side of the ram, and it's in your diagram. One table was made out of silver, and one table was made out of marble top. The marble top was used to put the limbs of animals, of korbanos, that had to be brought on the Mizbeach. We're not talking about the korban Tamid, the public offering, the offerings that were brought morning, korban Tamid shel shacha, afternoon, korban Tamid shel bein habayim. We're not talking about that. Those korbanos were put, we learned there was a Beis HaMikvachayim on the west side, on the north side of the Azara, and they kept the limbs on those tables, those marble tables, and they used marble so that the animals, because they just were slaughtered, they wouldn't heat up the animals due to the lack of refrigeration in the Beis HaMikdash. They didn't want the limbs to get hot and ruin in the heat. So there were these two tables, and one table is tabletop of silver, and one is a tabletop sort of like a marble or ceramic. Limbs that would have to be put on the Mizbeach they put on the marble top until they can get to the Mizbeach, and in this way they wouldn't heat up. The marble would keep them cool. And the silver table is where they put these 93 vessels. So again, we have these two tables on the western side of the ramp. One is marble, one is silver. The 93 vessels were put on the silver table. Now remember, we learned earlier, we learned it last week, and I introduced it again this morning during our review, that when our first lottery winner went out to do Trumas Hadeshen, he was followed by two groups of Kohanim. One went east, one group went west to inspect the Azara to make sure all vessels were in place so they can do the Avoda efficiently and not in the middle of the Avoda a Kohen saying, does anybody know where X is? To avoid that kind of delay, and it's just not a coveted thing to in the middle of the Avoda say, I'm missing a screwdriver or something. I'm missing a knife, I'm missing a this. So they made sure that all the kalim were in place, and they did this before dawn. While the Kohen who was doing the Trumas Hadeshen was doing the Trumas Hadeshen, two groups, one went east, one went west, Bolesh Ha'azara, they investigated and checked, make sure all the kalim in place. This was done before dawn. So what is the Mishnah now talking about, where the Mishnah says that after dawn, and they already selected the animal from the Lishkas HaTloyim, they now are going to take 93 kalim and put them on a silver table on the west side of the ramp. I thought that they took care of the kalim earlier before dawn. They inspected the whole Azara to make sure the kalim are in place. The Meforshim asked the question. We're dealing with two different sets of kalim. There were certain kalim that had to be out before dawn, and for that the Kohanim checked the entire Azara to make sure they're in place. Additional kalim came out from this Lishkas HaKalim. We don't know where it is, the kalim room. 93 in total each day, and were put on a silver table on the west side of the ramp. We continue the mission. Hishku es hatomid b'koi shel zahav. One of these 93 vessels was a cup that was made out of gold, and they would take the sheep, who was going to be the korban Tamid shel shacha, and they would let him drink water. They would let the sheep drink water before the shchitas hakorban. And if you have your Bahashev es ha'avoda, it's page 85, diagram 69. They are showing you the tleh being given water to drink out of a gold bowl. And the reason they did it out of a gold bowl is because ein anius b'mokam ashiris. We learned about this concept. There are two contradictory concepts. One is HaKadosh Baruch Hu chasam amaynu shel Yisrael. HaKadosh Baruch Hu has rachmanis on Jewish money, and he doesn't want us to spend money when we don't have to. And therefore, he allows us to do things that are not gold and silver. And yet there's a concept of ein anius b'mokam ashiris in the Beis Hamikdash, where it's God's palace. We don't show any signs of poverty. So even though we're just letting a sheep drink, we're going to let him drink out of a kos, out of a vessel that's made out of gold. The reason that before Shechita, they gave the sheep water to drink is, according to Chazal, when the sheep drinks water, there's a process by which they waited a few minutes, and water, I guess we have our own experiences when we feel dehydrated. We drink water, it hydrates our body. The process of hydration makes it easier for the Kohanim after the animal is shechted. It makes it easier for the Kohanim to remove the hide off of the animal. The hide, the skin of the animal hydrates, it's softer, and therefore taking off the hide of the korban Tamid, which is not going to be burnt on the Mizbeach, is an easier process. So they gave the sheep water to drink out of a vessel of gold in order to make the taking the hide off easier. Even though this animal has already been inspected from the day before, remember we said that a carbon Tamid, I'm only talking about carbon Tamid, a carbon Tamid has to have been inspected from a mum at least 4 days before it's brought as a carbon. So even though it's been inspected the day before, Mavakrin Osola Orhav, who goes, you're going to check him again from any mum right before the sheep is going to be shechted for a carbon Tamid. You're going to inspect him again, and you're going to inspect him using torches of fire so that you can see the animal very clearly, even though at this time in the Seder Avoda, it's already post-dawn, and therefore there's sunlight in the sky. Nevertheless, because it's still very early morning and we don't have bright light, they still took 2 torches. For that reason, they took 2 torches and inspected the animal again before Shechita. So there is a machlokes, Rambam and other poskim about this bikur daled yomim, this inspection of 4 days. Does it mean they inspected the animal every day for 4 days before the Shechita? Or does it mean 4 days before the Shechita they inspected it, put it into the Lishkas Hatloyim, and now it's safe. It's in the Lishkas Hatloyim, and that's it. And now you go and on the day of the Shechita, you inspect it one more time before Shechita, which means, according to the Rambam, you're going to inspect the animal twice. When you buy it, at least 4 days before, 1, and then before the Shechita, 2. Other Mefarshim hold Bikur Daled Yomim means you inspect it every single day for 4 days before the Shechita, and according to Rashi, means you inspect it day and night 4 days before the Shechita. So there's a Bikur Mimum 4 days before Shechita, either 4 days before and the day of Shechita like the Rambam, or every single day before the Shechita like the other Mefarshim. So in this Mishnah, Perek Gimel Mishnah Daled, we learned 3 things. We learned about 93 vessels coming out of the Lishkas HaKelim, and we don't know where the Lishkas HaKelim was. 93 appears to be, according to one answer in Yerushalmi, which the Rambam adopts, that the Shem Hashem appears 93 times in Chagi Zechariah Malachi. The next thing we learned about was that they fed the sheep, who's going to be the carbon Tamid, water out of a gold vessel, because ein aniyas b'makom ashiras. You're feeding a sheep, but it's going to be a carbon, and you're in the Beis Hamikdash, you do it with a gold vessel. And we learned the halacha of bikur mimum. Every sheep had to be inspected at least 4 days before it was brought as a carbon. Rambam 4 days before and before the Shechita. The other Mefarshim every day for 4 days, and including before the Shechita. We learned about the apparent contradiction between Midos and Tamid. Where was the Lishkas Hatloyim? Whether it was north, west, or southwest in the Beis Hamoked, and the Gemara deals with that. We had a review today of the 4 rooms in the 4 corners of the Beis Hamoked. The Lishkas Hatloyim, where they kept the sheep. The Lishkas HaChosamos, where you got the receipt if you were bringing a carbon. Lishkas Beis Hamoked, where there was the fire for the Kohanim to warm themselves, and the Lishka of the Lechem Haponim. 2 of these were in the southern corners of the Beis Hamoked, and therefore in the Azorah, and you couldn't sit there. 2 of them were in the northern corners of the Beis Hamoked, and therefore were over the Chel, and you were allowed to sit there. Okay, so we're up to Perek Gimel, Mishnah Hey. We'll be need to continue tomorrow. I've seen some messages about the V'hashem Avoda. I believe that an email went out to everybody who had ordered V'hashem Avoda to contact Levi Blumenfeld. His email address was given, and to send Levi your address and your phone number, and Levi would deliver the V'chosheves Avoda to your home. And I believe he has accomplished most of his mission. But I see some people that have not yet received the V'chosheves Avoda, but now that everybody will have it by tomorrow.